Morning, everybody. Thank you for having me, and thanks to Business World for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts. And I'm looking forward to learn through the other panels also. Before I go through my script, some demons that everybody is speaking about in AI. I just imagine what our ancestors would have thought when we first started hunting. I thought they would have thought their jobs would have gone. Same thing when it got to agriculture, and I'm sure they wanted to build guardrails about something. But here's the thing, right? Through humanity, there are three things that are consistent. We progress and build on what we have got. We produce and we consume. We produce and we consume. It could be services, products, something. And finally, we build some guardrails. And the opportunity before us, I wouldn't say at the sunrise of this point, but definitely with a much longer distance to the summit than to the foothill, we are at a very exciting point of time in history with AI. Now, all of us, the AI whisperers, the skeptics, people who are regulating data, the risk guys, and every brave soul who would have seen and would have done something probably very interesting. And I don't know if you saw the report yesterday which came from Wharton, which said many projects are successful. I think it was 75% or something. And around 1 month ago, we had a report from, I think it was McKinsey, which said 75% projects are unsuccessful. So where do we stand? My stance is, does it matter? Does it matter? What is relevant for us is probably more important than anything else. So over the last 1 year, 1.5 years, after the chat GPT moment, there's been a lot of mystery clouds. I'll touch upon 5 aspects which Sharon kindly briefed me on that I needed to touch. And we are living through fascinating times. And this is just my own view. Before we go ahead, this is not a view of my organization. So I'm just taking this opportunity to take you through some of the opportunities we have. So can I go to the next slide, please? What does data leadership mean? I've been around 30 years, 27 years in the industry to be precise, not to give away my young age, but there you go. Long ago, we all remember those Iron Mountain tapes. Those of you who have been in the industry long enough, backups, shared lockers, you go to many offices, probably those filing cabinets that were gathering dust. We have definitely moved on. From a palace guard to backups, now to somebody who's actually a conductor, orchestrating risk, revenue, and return. The data custodian, the data leadership role has gone a long way. I mean, the question has moved on from where is our data to what is the decision. Because data is there now everywhere. I don't think there is any second opinion on that. And if you look at the Indian scenario, we are probably, and I was speaking to some of the new friends I made here, our digital infrastructure is something we need to be super proud of. So definitely today we are at a world where our data flows have more value than cash flows. And if we are the data custodians, which many of us are there, we definitely need to ignore noise and embed this information. You all may be aware, our nationalized bank had an IMPS posting error of 820 crore rupees for phantom transfer. The noise, the lessons, it's not just the money that was lost. So today, leadership demands spine and a spreadsheet going together. And many organizations, including my own, have gone publicly. There are people who say they have got X, Y, and Z value. The key bit is put the customer truth out there and if we don't do it, we may cease to exist, not just be left behind. So the data leadership has taken the data owner from a custodian to perhaps a strategist. And that's where we are. Getting down to the next aspect, data culture and literacy. Now, quite fashionable, isn't it? Everybody talks of this jargon. Now, data science, I'm very conscious, is not equal to data sense. We need to get into quite constructive, clear decision making using the data we have. You can put 100 things and then finally you get into an email that is just sent to one place. That's not what we are talking about. We have had scenarios where deepfake CEOs were recommending recommendations, and deepfakes are going to be a big thing. It's going to come again and again and again. Where was the threat vector there? It wasn't the algorithm. It was the attention. And whether we have a compliance team, branch staff, anybody, front, back, center, doesn't matter. Everybody has to be data literate. I think the times in the past when we said this is a department task. Now, everybody needs to be trained on data. There is very little doubt about it. And everybody is looking at something different. Now, it's just a pictorial representation, but you can look at it. Every department has something. We need to get to a number, and it's very unstructured. It's all over the place. And I think we need to start celebrating decisions that are made together using data. We need to put certain measures in place, and I'll come to that towards the end. But definitely we need to get into moving on from a cross-functional disparate situation with everybody having data sense. Now moving on, the next one is something that's quite close to many. Many organizations used to have a situation where when you ask for data, first there is a no, the second part is why do we need it? And India being the home of many GCCs now needs to have many acts together. Whether it is NIST, whether it is EU, whether it is RBI, everybody, the DPDP in India which came in 2023, everything is very sophisticated. So if our pipelines don't match to these acts, then we are in serious trouble. And if we say no all the time, what are we doing with the data? Food for thought, isn't it? It's just quite risky. And just some data point that I wanted to mention here. Account aggregators, where were they long ago? Just last year, in financial year 25, anybody guess how many accounts did they touch in India? 1.89 crore accounts, dispersing 1.6 lakh crore rupees. And I'm just talking India here. Look at it over the world. It's a huge figure that is enabled by having clear data rules, sticking to the act, getting everybody involved, and people knowing rather than saying no. Moving on from here, the next part for the organization is more about the talent gap or the perceived talent gap. I mean, you could have AI fluency, X, Y, Z, everything coming up. Again, it's a very jargon kind of a conversation. And we all love to say talent is a constraint, and then we assign a video for people to watch. Now, is that enough? We are a country with 1/6 of the planet's population, I think, and we probably are producing a lot of data. Just a fun fact, I think Meta, which has got 3.5 billion users, I think daily, I don't remember the daily active count, and Google has, I think, 9 products with more than 1 billion people who use it. And guess, for both of them, which is the largest market? China is outdoor. Which is the largest market? Where is the data produced? And what are the implications? All of us have to accept that our data is giving us knowledge. We have to move up the competency ladder. And then how do we look at it? We really need to look at measures that we can put. And it has to be very relevant. Remember those days? I mean, I'm sure many of you wouldn't have been born. People had internet as a CV skill. Anybody remembers those? Excel is a skill that you could say. MS Word is a skill that you could say. Today, is it relevant? Data, we are going exactly in that direction. Now, this is not red tape. This is not red tape. We need to make sure about a few things. There have to be no manual tweaks between systems. It's just something that we need to get perfectly right. And it's like, you know, our training should lead to very quick deployment. We need to have measures that we can do this. And the veteran who has got 30 years industry experience, who's a domain expert, should be able to speak about data like a 20-year-old who has just been born with a mobile phone in his mother's womb. So both of them should be very data literate, should be able to do very quickly, and then we can codify knowledge. And knowledge definitely is more than code. So moving on to the fifth aspect that I wanted to touch upon. We cannot live with disclaimers. Ethical and responsible AI is something that we don't have a choice about. It's about trust. It's about balance. Has anybody heard of something called a bereavement flight that was taken by a company, by an airline company in North America? Guess what happened? So somebody lost, somebody had to get some bereavement. So the chatbot was asked, hey, I want a bereavement flight. Can you give me the details of what it costs, etc.? Funnily enough, guess what the chatbot would have done? It used all its knowledge. It hallucinated and gave him something. And guess what the guy did? He then sued the airline. And then guess what the airline said? It's not my responsibility, it's the chatbot's responsibility. And the judge was laughing. And this is not a joke. This happened with the airline in North America. Now, whatever it is, we need to start risk tiering. I mean, I'm sure everybody would have seen the 42001 controls from NIST, the Indian controls. Whatever it is, EU has been quite at the forefront. If somebody uses a deep fake of anybody, any Danish citizen, they need to take permission. So last when I looked at it, there were some 48 lawsuits going at different parts of the world on data scraping and what's happening. But it just can't be that we can survive without getting into AI. And we need to make sure we are responsible. And some lawsuits, whether they happen, they may happen. And we need to scale trust. If our algorithm cannot explain our decisions, we don't have AI. We just have an assistant whom we are complaining about like the bot. And if we are not able to catch deepfakes, all of us would have been with video KYC, video X, video Y, video Z. Deepfakes are a real thing. And if the deepfakes move, then it's just going to be a challenge. So moving on, and before I go on, I just wanted to share 4 incidents that happened, and this is just to stay in touch with the theme. I spoke about an 820 crore wrong credit that happened due to AI. Now, we need to test controls there before anything moves. On an Amazon S3 public bucket, which means anybody could access, people found 23,000 PDFs with all the personally identifiable information, the PII information available. And just remember something, if we don't know where our data is, there's a good chance internet knows about it. And if the internet knows about it, there's a higher chance that we'll be liable for something. So, there was a broker who was breached in India due to third party, and third party validation is as important as we validate, say, a borrower. and it impacted 8 million accounts. So where do we go? So there was something that I got through from a source. So it says, if Mahabharata had a data chapter, Arjuna would focus only on the fish's eye. And for us, that eye is trust, earned through daily value, vigilance, and verifiability. So here are some suggestions for the next few months for us. Model risk and responsible AI should be almost like a product line. We wouldn't put finance in the hands of anybody. Data is almost at that point. We need to have very clear policy. We need to put risk tiers. Obviously, a decision on a client or a regulatory submission is very different to a recommendation engine. We need to make sure our model incidents, our audits should be squeaky clean. And where are the manual touch points as the data is moving? Have we seen that? The second thing is, as I said, data sense is more important than data science. Data literacy should be mandatory and fun. We should gamify this across the organization, give bragging rights. Gamification is what will actually make a difference, or at least will take things towards the positive front. There are people who are clearly afraid of some of these things, but that won't take us anywhere. Then the next thing is, we need to operationalize all our act and put all the consents through our pipelines, whether it is a flow, the data flow that we are doing, how we are tagging things, everything should be baked in. The checkpoints, the recovery through breaches should be very clearly auditable, and the recovery has to be super, super quick. In fact, one of the things that we do with a lot of systems is recovery time. Now we might have to see what happens, how do we recover? Not just when the system goes down, but when the system is hacked or there's a data point. I mean, the Amazon incident very recently was a quick reminder of where we stand in the world. Moving on. And of course, the talent gap is there, whether we have a person with 20-year experience or a 20-year-old coming in. We need to make sure there are tracks and everybody gets that data sense. And we need to start measuring productivity, how quickly we are deploying our models. And finally, we do know at the end of it, the chances, the weakest link is what is the strongest point of entry for any breach. So whether it is deepfake defense, any test that we do with our runbooks, what do we do, how do we measure, how do we audit, becomes really, really something that is of utmost importance. And as I end this, I'll like to read from what I have prepared. India's digital rails, and I would say the world's digital rails, are like a Himalayan river. Whether we build a dam or whether it floods, probably is a choice. We can build turbines or we can let it flood. And the turbines can be with governance, talents, and ethics. All the best to everybody. Lead like strategists. Learn like startups, govern like banks, and hire like universities. And finally, build and treat AI like a doctor and a surgeon. Precise, traceable, and very accountable. May your models be humble, your data be clean, and most importantly, may your audits be very, very boring and nothing to be found in that. All the best. Good luck and Jai Hind. Thank you for having me.